everybody. Reporting to you again from the Glamour City, Hollywood.
Those retailers that can't follow me home with what it is I bought are going to be under pressure because all the innovations they do on the choose journey that still leave them not present during the use journey will mean their brand relevance goes down. And product makers who turn products into services and sell them through whatever channels they need to stay in touch with the customer post-purchase, I think that becomes the definition of a modern relevant brand is with me while I'm using.
If you love listening to this show, please consider giving a rating and a review on Amazon Alexa or wherever you listen. We want to continue bringing you this amazing content, and part of our ability to do that means that we need a big audience. Now, it may not seem like much, but rating and reviewing the show will help more people find us, just like how you found this show. Simply on any podcast platform, search for a show, scroll down to the bottom, and push 5 stars. It's that easy. Thanks for supporting the show. Today, I'm joined by Ted Moser, Senior Partner at Profit. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Scott. Great to be here.
So you wrote this book, Winning Through Platforms. So I'd love to know your thoughts around what was the genesis and what were you hoping to achieve through this?
Yeah, I've been inspired to write books twice. Once was when the internet was sort of rocking the world way back when. I wrote a book called Profit Patterns that tried to decode where might the profit pools in industry be shifting because of the internet. This one I wrote because I felt like platforms are to the 2020s what websites were to the 2000s. They're a chance to watch the customer use what it is that bought or purchased or acquired or subscribed to, where the internet and websites gave us a chance to watch the customers shop and choose. So together they light up the full customer journey. And I just felt like everyone was looking at platforms like they were just a tech layer and arguing over what was a platform, what was not a platform, and really missing the key point, which was that platforms are a business system that really began the moment you can watch your customer use what it is they've acquired from you and require new types of muscle, new types of processes, new types of cultural values in order to use them as a growth driver. And I felt like that hadn't really been written about. There were some books announcing the arrival of platforms, 2015 to 2017. They sort of promised information network effect, monopoly or network effect, locking in of your customers. And I felt like that wasn't turning out to be true. Once everyone has a platform, the customer learns to choose between them, hop between them, and companies have to go back and earn customer choice and grow customer value, but just under a new paradigm. And so I felt like there hadn't been a book written that was really a playbook for how to differentiate, how to grow in a platform pervasive world. So my goal was to be a strategy book for the platform era, much like there have been many strategy books written in the past for the product line company era.
Well, I'm glad that you've started with the definition as well as the kind of the nuance, because certainly I think a lot of the audience members are going to be familiar with the concept of platforms, so network effects, some of the monopolistic power, closed garden aspects of it, but you're defining it differently, and certainly the application beyond the big tech. And certainly when we look at brands like Apple's App Store, Amazon, Salesforce, Airbnb, Uber, you name it, the notion that you're talking about around strategy, I think has been there for some time, but maybe we didn't quite fully articulate it externally. So
yes,
talk to us a little bit about how the platforms that you're defining it helps to scale, create those interlocking defensibility, earn customer loyalty, and capture those significant lifetime value.
Great. Well, first of all, we do start with the customer and we say the platform is the tech stack and the experience design that lets you observe your customer as they use and add value interactively while they're using. Collect data along the way so that the next time the customer goes to choose, you have advantaged insight as to what to next offer them. And so that the customer coalition you build is attractive to non-customers so that it creates a viral appeal. So those are all elements of succeeding as a platform business system. And it's no longer for just the tech titans. When Haier puts a barcode reader in a refrigerator, so you can, from your office, look at what's in the fridge and sort things by date of when they're going to go bad, and ask yourself, what could I make with what's in the fridge, and use AI to give a good answer. It's a refrigerator company that's becoming a platform company. When Nike watches me run and adds value to me through exercise communities, it's a platform company. When Sleep Mattress puts sensors in my mattress and turns my night of sleep into a night of sleep therapy, if you will, by changing the firmness, changing the temperature, changing the angle at which I'm sleeping based on biorhythm, and it's becoming a sleep service. And I have a sleep quality score in the morning. And, studies with major hospital systems around cardiovascular health and quality of sleep. All of a sudden, I'm transforming what it means to be a mattress company. So our point is that platforms are for everyone. Usually it's strategic creativity that's standing in between you and being a platform company, but it's no longer the tech titans. It's really every market is becoming pervasively platform driven. So that's the first tenet, I think we would say. Then I think the next thing we'd say, Scott, is the rules of how to win are different in a platform world than in a product line world. And they're no longer just the network effect. If you've ever gone with a team to go get a cab in a modern world, somebody will dial up Uber and somebody will dial up Lyft, and whichever car is slower to get there gets canceled. That's how locked in we are by the information effect to only one partner. We're not locked in the least. So I think customers have learned to network hop. And so all of a sudden, the network effect doesn't, unless I'm, let's say, in the search business, sure, Google gets better search results, greater scale, greater search results. But that notion of bigger creates higher quality performance beyond a minimum scale isn't often true in many platform markets. So as we think about platforms going forward, if the network effect is your silver bullet, congratulations, you're one of the few for which it is. But if not, then the platform playbook in the book, Winning Through Platforms, gives you 24 ways to win. So you can have ideas around how to construct your business portfolio to make it platform powered, or how to design a differentiated platform, or how to accelerate its growth through the way you manage go-to-market, through the way you innovate, and then how to organize your company to perform better as a platform company. So those 24 ways to win get spread across an end-to-end set of management systems so that you can think holistically about what would it take for my company to be a high-performing platform company. So I think that's where I would view this book. If you think of product line to platform as a progression in thinking, platform network effect to that's not enough is another progression in thinking. And when you do that second progression, you say, well, then I need a playbook of moves I could make. And that's the book that I've tried to write.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for classifying it that way. Let's start with the first portion that you mentioned, which is around this notion of, I would call it almost like digitizing everything. Perhaps maybe it's the Internet of Things, or maybe it's the quantification of things. So it doesn't matter if you're not a big tech company or a conglomerate, you can actually have these digitized tentacles, so to speak. And again, just for clarity, we're not just talking about the point up to client acquisition through omnichannel. We're talking about the full user lifecycle from the beginning
Right.
to the end use and eventual either renewal or replacement. So
That's right.
That's a pretty long journey. And we certainly are at a point where I think we're able to do that now more so than, let's say, 20 years ago, where we didn't have the ability for these sensors to be everywhere, edge computing,
Yes.
edge nodes, the ability to even use QR codes, very simplified, but yet very, helpful things that lead us onto digital footprint and ultimately capturing the valuable attributes and the preferences and the desires that people have. Tell us about how companies are really harnessing that data. And again, data science for several years has been really big. And of course, we're starting to see some pretty big movements around Gen AI and just
Yeah,
general narrow AI to
yeah.
utilize these large data warehouses.
Be happy to. So, Scott, to your point, I'd say if I'm an e-commerce company, if I'm capable of digitally selling, I'm not yet a platform company. If my customer disappears once they've bought and I can't be with them during use, then I'm not yet a platform company in the way I define the book, platform company. And so it does require how can I watch the customer use? And it was really between 2005 and 2010 that became possible for most firms. What happened was, number one, Apple and Samsung invented the smartphone around 2008. And one of the biggest IoT devices in the world is that little supercomputer in my pocket. And my IoT sensor is the swipe on the screen. Another one was that cloud service providers got into business right at the same time. Amazon, Microsoft, Google all decided to rent out their data centers, and now what we call hyperscalers or cloud service providers. They went into business at about the same 2-year period, around 2008. And that enabled companies that were disruptors to start up with no IT infrastructure because they could rent it and host software on it. And then I can watch the customer click on the keyboard. The third big thing was sensors dropped dramatically in price during the 2000s, and AI began to become more available to everyone. And so now I could watch my automobile go down the road more effectively than ever, and through cloud computing, figure out what to do fast enough through machine vision and other technologies to make the car swerve and begin to drive for the driver. And all of a sudden, my car becomes a platform. So that opened the floodgates for innovation. An insurance company, Progressive or Lemonade, could tell the customer, I have a deal for you. Let me watch you drive and put this little toggle in your car, and I'll give you a differentiated insurance rate based on watching how safe of a driver you are. So that's an example of a platform play for an insurance company. And so company after company, by going to hosted software, by going through what's really cloud computing in different forms, and by leaning into sensing, are really being able to light up parts of the customer journey that have always been dark on the use side. If I think of Nest and the connected home, and how other security companies have gotten into the same technology, other light bulb companies are getting into that technology. There's all sorts of ways that I can monitor energy use and help the customer through intelligence by watching them use and automating usage. So this idea of sensing, watching, adding value in real time is really what platforms are all about as a business system.
I would make the argument that you're taking financial services as an example. Most financial
Yes.
services, even the C-suites and the board would actually claim that they're more of a tech company
Yes.
just in the context of financial services. So no longer are we saying these industries are, I'm in manufacturing, I'm in robotics, or I'm in, let's say, agriculture. They're
Yep.
all effectively technology companies. So
They are.
when everybody is a technology company because we're data driven, how does that really enhance everyone else? In the sense of when it's kind of this notion of if you're a super and everybody's a super, are you really that different? Which brings
Right.
us to the transition of the strategy playbook, which if
That's
you
right.
could call out specific strategies that you think are distinctively unique or different from the strategies that are laid out from other books and other courses that are out there.
Sure. Be happy to. We try to do it in a few ways. Scott, we studied about 60 companies over the last 10 years that were all platform firms. And we watched their winning moves, and we tried to learn from those and then try to distill it into this platform playbook. The playbook is like a sports playbook. It's not an easy 3 steps to success. The couple dozen plays say, hey, study your field, study what the defense is doing if you're on offense. Understand what play will work for you next, where you could get better or where you could become best, and decide which 3 out of the 24 plays are your next plays. Just like a football team would say, when is it time to pass? When is it time to run, etc. So that's one principle of just the way that the book is used. We challenge the reader to learn the playbook and find your plays. A second thing, if I go to the idea of plays that you could find here that maybe you don't see elsewhere. Scott, if we start at the portfolio plays, we try to give 7 archetypes of how you could use a platform to turbocharge your business portfolio. We don't assume that you're a pure play software company or a pure play platform company. You could be any sort of company, and we give different choice points, how much visibility you're going through for, what sort of portfolio synergies you're using. I'll give you one example of those 7, which is a 2-way synergy platform. The 2-way advantage construction says, I'm going to have a platform inside of a physical business that supports it, but at the same time, I'm going to have that platform available on a pure play basis, and I want to create business synergies across the 2. So Netflix is a great example. They started out as a digital software company only, distributing movies in ones and zeros. And then they decided to become a physical business to physically make movies. And the synergies between them are, because Netflix has 240 million customers, Nicole Kidman will sign up to do a movie for Netflix because she knows she has a built-in market the day the movie launches or the TV series launches. And because Nicole Kidman signs up, Netflix has the basis for growing its customer base to the next 10 million, next 20 million viewers. And that synergy is an example of one of 7 types of portfolio construction that I could use. So we try to give patterns to the user to say, hey, what did Disney do? Disney said, I've got 2 spots. I can put a magic band on the wrist of the customer as they walk through the park and enhance their experience, be with them as they're using the park, but also track the data and understand who they as an individual care about within my Disney universe of characters. And at the same time, I've got Disney Plus as a streaming media service. That's a second platform that Disney owns. And the data that those 2 streams produce lets Disney get a much more finely tuned sense of who Scott Amyx is or who Ted Moser is, and offer to us the merchandise, the experiences, the next best offer that matter most to us. So Disney, despite the fact that it's been celebrated for years as a high synergy company across physical entertainment, media entertainment, and merchandise, they found new ways to create even better corporate synergies or tighter corporate synergies through the data produced by 2 platforms and then used by 3 businesses. So that's another example of a portfolio construction. It's an act by the senior leadership team of strategic creativity to say, how could platforms make a difference for us? So that's one example of portfolio plays. I'd be glad to give you some other examples of some other types of plays if it's all right, but I don't want to just only speak. So I don't know if you're interested in hearing some design plays or demand plays. If that would be of interest, I'd be happy to share.
Okay. We will definitely follow up on that in just a second.
Okay.
So while we recognize that the power of platforms is certainly present, however, I wonder if that's sufficient. So in other words, when we take a look at companies like Sears, Bed Bath and Beyond, Macy's,
Yes.
Nordstrom, you name it, again, they're under more systemic trend, larger macro trends,
Yes.
where it's displacing them. And many of them have attempted, and let's just take the example of Nordstrom or Macy's or any of the big retailers or brands, try to do exactly what you're talking about in a lot of those strategies where you can do things offline, online, omnichannel. and it's kind of pervasive, right? So it's seamless regardless what device or things you're working with, down to even Alexa and Siri,
Yep.
for example. But yet, at the end of the day, it's not sufficient to keep them alive and thriving.
Yep. So I believe that what they have done is a great job of digitizing the choose journey, making it omni-channel, make it an omni experience. They've had a really hard time participating in the use journey because once the customer checks out of Bed Bath and Beyond, um, unless there are sensors on that chair that I bought or sensors on the bed that I bought, um, even unless there's a geo-fenced home that I can tap into, it's hard to add value during the use journey if I'm just a retailer. And I think what platforms are doing is they're moving power to the product maker who actually gets to embed strategies for the use journey and who can find direct sales channels that are not going through the big box retailers. So I think platforms, just like the internet and the website era, shifted power to those who could sell through omnichannel. And some companies fell out who did a bad job of digitizing the choose journey. I believe this next wave that's only been around for 15 years or so is again disrupting industry in a new way and again shifting power. And I do think those retailers that can't follow me home with what it is I bought are going to be under pressure because all the innovations they do on the choose journey that still leave them not present during the use journey will mean their brand relevance goes down. And product makers who turn products into services and sell them through whatever channels they need to stay in touch with the customer post purchase. I think that becomes the definition of a modern relevant brand is with me while I'm using. So I do think there's going to be ongoing pressure to that cohort of businesses that you just described, Scott. And I don't know if they can innovate their way out of it without becoming product designers themselves, and then go home with them. So my own label brands, if I'm Home Depot, I've got some powerful own label brands. How do I turn those into use journey brands would be an example of where an innovative retailer might be able to go.
So on that thought, let's use Amazon, not the AWS side, but the Amazon retail side, as
Yeah.
a case study to examine this a little bit further, because
Yes.
I can make the argument that Amazon has done a terrific job on the use journey,
Yep.
from Echo, Alexa to the likes of things that gets integrated into homes, smart homes. It knows what you're doing. It's listening.
It's
You can do
yes.
transactions from your kitchen, but at the same time, how can these prominent leaders that make the argument that they're
Yep.
monopolies to an extent defend that when they have new paradigms like Temu, Shane, and others as disintermediating and actually
Yep.
starting to really erode the margins and the market share away from Amazon
Yep.
retail? And that goes for also Walmart as well.
So I would argue a couple things, Scott. I would argue that Amazon, first of all, a lot of the innovations around Alexa are still around choose journey innovations. They created a new choose journey channel of, hey, Amazon, could I have 12, could I have another box of Pampers, please? And boom, it's on the way to my home. That's really still a version of e-commerce. It's voice-enabled e-commerce. I think Amazon, in general, because it's still selling other people's stuff, still is mostly involved in the choose journey. But the fact that Alexa can tell me the weather or Alexa can play music, it's not traditional Amazon retailing activities, but it's digital services activities through Alexa that make Amazon more of a platform. And the fact that they have such a broad range of merchandise and services that I can choose from, that they can offer me what we call loyalty as a service, which is what loyalty programs look like in a platform world. if I've got such pervasive ability to watch the customer choose and use, I can offer them more sophisticated loyalty programs. And I can even get to the point, if I'm Amazon or if I'm Uber One, where I could say, I have an idea, customer, you pay me to be loyal to me. Pay me $190 and I'll give you $900 worth of value back. But once you've paid me your Prime subscription, now you're on my side of wanting to be as loyal to Amazon as you possibly can be to get all the value out of that $190 you paid. So I think Amazon does have increasing relevance as a platform during the use journey. It is under pressure as an e-commerce provider, to your point, Scott, by some of those disruptors that you mentioned. I think they're going after, through specialization, some of the choose journey innovations that Amazon did years ago. And Amazon is so broad that it's become a general store on the choose journey side. And there it is more vulnerable to specialty competitors. I think on the use journey side, it still has a very strong franchise. And I wouldn't be surprised if someday it offers to geofence my kitchen, let's say, as tied into the supermarket business that it has. So it can be a value added, what's in the pantry, what do I need to shop for? Do I just renew my pasta purchase when it runs out? Or does the customer want to decide whether or not to rebuy or not? It can do a lot in the home yet with sensing that it hasn't yet done to become a more pervasive platform player, even if it's under attack as an e-commerce seller.
Let's talk about three different dimensions. Again, we only have about 3 minutes remaining, but let's talk about culture aspect.
Great.
And let's talk about teams or the interaction of teams. And then lastly, leadership aspects and how these play into the platform strategy.
Great. So culture is affected in several ways. Product companies think of product to customer. Platforms think of platform to ecosystem of customers, which we call a customer coalition. So my culture needs to be able to look at multiple customer types from different angles. We called it thinking of kaleidoscopic value, how to give a great view to every member of the coalition. That's a culture shift. Culture also requires that when I'm with the customer and using, that I'm doing it for their good. I'm not using my visibility to exploit them. So how do I create a culture of adding value to the customer during use, rather than, let's say, raising prices once I see that they're shopping for an airline ticket, and using that visibility against them. And then finally, culture really depends in a platform company on managing the interdependencies that a platform creates internally. If I'm trying to be a leader of a product line company, every product family has a leader who wants to aspire to be the next general manager of the company. And they use their ownership of that product segment and their performance on the P&L as their calling card for why they should be promoted. A platform challenges that talent group to become contributors to a shared asset, and not a owner of a siloed asset. And that requires stitching together management processes, governance processes, ways of teaming that are new and that are culturally challenging. So I think platforms require new ways of looking at value, hyper customer sensitivity and centricity, new approaches towards creating new value, and then new approaches of synchronized performance. Across my company, we write about all those in the book and ways that leaders can manage those to drive accelerated growth and to drive accelerated performance.
So my final comment is around the fact that while all of these different strategies are really meant to enhance and strengthen the ties with the customers, there's also things that's being done more on an internal corporate level that still has an external effect. So in other words, there's ranking for best place to work, for instance, and many consumers or customers view certain brands with a certain prestige perspective. But when their employees get laid off in a very draconian or dehumanizing way, that has an adverse impact to the goodwill and the value perception, not just by the employees, but by the people that read the media coverage around those topics. How should platform strategy take those types of things into consideration?
So there's definitely talent shifts required. And any leader has a question of, am I going to be in the talent development business or fire this cohort, hire that cohort business to create my talent shift? So the talent shift happens at the software level. Do my engineers know monolithic application software, or can they code in microservices and service-oriented architecture? So I can have old-fashioned programmers versus newfangled programmers. Do they know data sciences? Do they know AI? So there's a develop versus swap out question there. Then in a lot of the go-to-market, can my sales teams sell platforms rather than sell products? It's a bit more of a structural sale. It's a configuration sale. It's less one product at a time. And so your systems thinkers that are sales reps thrive in a platform world, but your single product sales reps who have a harder time thinking in systems have a hard time. So again, develop or swap out and try to upgrade. So there's multiple points around talent shifts that happen in a platform world, and leaders have to decide how much they're going to lead into developing the folks they have versus trying to look for new folks. And then if they do have to do the shift by hiring and firing, how human are they to the folks that they're letting go? So all those play into, I think, the employer brand, Scott, that you're talking about.
And as a final concluding comment is that we talked about some major waves of innovation over the last 20 years. And right now at this juncture, we're looking at Gen AI, which to me is just a specific diffusion types of models of machine learning.
Right.
We have things that's going to advance to general artificial intelligence and then action quotient capabilities.
Yes.
We're at a very interesting point. And what's your advice to CXOs that are out there as they think about the next transformative years of their organizations?
Yes. One of the plays in the playbook, one of the 24, is called Brands Get Brains. And it's all about the branding of intelligence and the design of experience of intelligence. Some of the key principles we talk about, Scott, are, first of all, don't just focus on the thinking. Obviously, that's what AI is known for, but focusing on the sensing, the thinking, and the acting, which is really the definition of a living system if it senses, thinks, and acts. And ask yourself, how much does your customer want to be a living company, a living brand that can do all those things? Do they want to experience you watching them or not? And where do you design your reveal of your intelligence to the customer versus doing it behind the curtain? And then after we've thought through experience design holistically, how can I add value to the customer throughout their platform journey through intelligence? Then the question is, what brands do I use? Some companies try to create a specialist AI brand like Einstein for Salesforce or like Watson for IBM. That risks making the rest of the company's brands look dumb, if you will. Somebody like Microsoft took a different approach. They decided to distribute intelligence and ask themselves, well, what is Excel going to know and be smart about? What is Office going to know and be smart about? What does now Copilot know and be smart about? And so there's an intelligence branding architecture that have the customer experiencing my intelligence through either one or more than one brands. And that's a strategic choice for any CMO today, as well as for a CXO. And they need to be together on this question of where intelligence is experienced and how it's branded as a way of creating a full customer journey. Nike's done a really interesting job. We document in the book sort of Nike's full digital journey and where it's leaning into intelligence, as well as we give a B2B example from a company named Trellix, and we give a bit about what Salesforce is doing with Einstein.
All right, so we're out of time. I've been joined by Ted Moser, Senior Partner at Profit. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this episode, take a moment to rate our show on any podcast platform that you listen to. Scroll down to the bottom and push 5 stars. It's that easy. And as always, thanks for listening.